Okay.
I don't know.
No,
Yeah, that's right.
okay, thanks. Okay, thanks.
You're fine.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. You can't take it all.
See you next time.
Yeah, I can't get my.
Are you ready? All right.
Good
Good evening. I would like to call this regular school board meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, November 20th. It's 7:04. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the roll reflect that all members are present. Was this meeting properly notified?
Yes, it was, and as a reminder, it is being recorded.
Thank you. Welcome visitors. Is there any public comment tonight? First is highlight on youth. We have the St. Croix Central cross country team. We have Abby Dilcher and David Linsmeyer. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
I told Abby there'd be a raucous crowd here waiting.
This sort of thing.
Thank you guys for having us. We're just so stinking proud of our kids that we wanted to brag about them for a little while. So if you don't mind, I'll take a few minutes. For those that don't know, I'm David Linsmeyer, one of the cross country coaches. We always explain that on paper, I'm in charge of the boys, but really it's a group effort, and I'll let Abby introduce herself.
Yeah, and I'm Abby Dilcher, in charge of the girls, but we do so much together. We're truly just one team.
Yeah, so I think it'll be easiest just to go through some quick season highlights and then dive into the stuff that I think we love that we can describe that other people don't know about unless they're with us every single day. So I'll let you go first, Abby.
Yes, the girls had a terrific season. The girls were conference champions, which hasn't happened very often in our school history. We had 5 girls that were all conference. We had 2 that were first team all conference, 3 girls that were second team all conference. And then the girls took second at our sectionals meet, which therefore qualified them for the state meet, and overall they placed 8th. The girls hadn't been seeded at all year. Osceola had been ahead of us, Amory had been ahead of us, so we hadn't been ranked. So at sectionals, we surprised a lot of people, which was exciting. Still, after that, the rankings, we were expected to finish 14th out of 16 teams at the section, and we ended up placing 8th. So that was really fun that we just kept surprising people. And I think the girls, just that momentum and the way they root each other on, it's not surprising how well they did.
Yeah. On the boys' side, the boys placed 3rd conference. They were 7th in their sectional. We had 2 boys that were kind of standouts that were all conference. Jack Shower was a kid who moved in from North Dakota. The family was actually looking for schools to be at in the area, and they chose St. Croix Central. A lot to do with like our facilities and our staff and good just good everything that we have. I thought that was really, really incredible, actually. There was actually a lot of coaches kind of mad at us for getting him.
We recruited him.
Yeah. All right, so we just put
They
this
visited
referendum
all
for
the
you,
different
Jack.
districts around us. So
They
that was
did, yeah. They visited Prescott, they visited Baldwin, they like really did visit other area schools, and they chose us, which we thought was really cool, and I was like, this is awesome. So Jack was a great standout for us. Dan Gottfredson was our first freshman boy to be all conference in a really long time. It's a very hard thing to do for a boy in our conference, so that was incredible. Other than that, though, besides just the boys and girls, all together we had 24 kids on the team. 18 of them had lifetime PRs throughout the season at some point. The majority of them, I would say 80 to 90% of them had their PR on the most important race of their season, which is what we're always trying to do. But Abby and I always explain that the season for these kids is technically August, October, but really the kids get together every day in June, starting in June, and they go for their own runs together. We're often not there. They are very, very hard workers. But we were trying to find different ways to describe the kiddos. So I'm thinking I'm at elementary school, high schoolers. We found out that the girls' cumulative GPA was 3.94. The boys' cumulative GPA was 3.87. We got a list of other extracurriculars that these kids are in, and we counted up to 16, but we didn't get all of the feedback. So we just thought that that was the best way to describe who these students are and why we feel like we have such a strong program. It's really, Abby and I don't take credit for it at all. I think these kids show up as great humans and they build something great around them. So we are extremely proud of them. We always say we really believe in this team and this school and this community to establish such a strong cross-country program. And we, without question, feel the momentum of that happening. Abby and I have a lot going on at home, and these kids make it very, very worth it to sacrifice from time at home just to be with this team. So, anything else?
No, they're just the easiest group to root for. If you would come in and watch these kids at practice, I mean, you can just see their work ethic and how they're cheering for each other. And we're just so proud of them, and we're not surprised at the results that they had because of them just simply showing up. Again, like David said, since June, they showed up every single day. And that wasn't because of us. We had some amazing senior leaders who put that work forth. And we always say iron sharpens iron. So just watching them make each other better every day, making us better every day, so it's just been an outstanding season. So we're just excited to see where this goes.
We don't often get the chance to brag about cross country. It doesn't always make, there's no Friday night lights to cross country, right? It's usually Saturday early mornings, which people don't always want to do. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to, like we said, brag about these kids. They deserve it. So thank you. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. But
I feel like culture is a word that's thrown around a lot, but from what I got to see with my daughter joined late and was the best team sport she's ever been a part of. You guys have really set a culture that's unprecedented in the school.
thank you.
I think it's a unique sport because we're co-ed and not many sports get that opportunity. So that can go one of two ways, but the way that our kids just gel and they're a little bit weird together in the best way. We've done some really fun team bonding activities. And this summer we used our contact days to take them to different trail runs. We went to Sky Zone. They had Cross Country's Got Talent. So just to see them flourish in all the other ways, just besides running, has been really unique.
We tell them all the time, everything we preach has nothing to do with running. And I really do feel like kids actually soak that in. And it's been the most important sport in my life. I know for Abby too, it's impactful. And we're just so thankful to coach it because it's a pleasure. So
One thing I'll add too is I've seen you guys run down 170th a lot, and I always see Jack come up over the hill, then the rest of the crew behind. But one thing we noticed a few times is that a lot of kids in the middle would drop back and support the person in the back. So that was pretty cool to see, just being a witness to it. So
yeah, sorry for taking time, but this is the coolest thing. I mean, at the end of our Prescott race, this is pretty rare. Usually you don't have a photo finish all the time that goes live, but at Prescott's meet, they did have a live cam going with everybody crossing the line. And there was one girl, I don't remember where she was from. She took dead last. She was minutes behind. And we were just looking through the results and we see a picture and there's how many of our girls?
7.
Probably 7 of our girls clapping at the line. They're all alone. It's just our girls clapping for this girl who's crossing the finish line, and they have no relationship with this person. Have never met in her life. And we obviously didn't direct that. We didn't say to do any of that. That's just the kids that we have, and that's who they are. And so, feel free to come for a run with us sometime and experience it if you want to.
June 1st, we'll be there.
Yeah. So,
Two of the most humble people standing in front of you, and it's because of their leadership, their character, and their passion that they lead those kids to that culture you're speaking of, Derek. And so, thank you, David and Abby. You guys are great.
thank you
Because
guys.
they have little ones running around and go to their
They're
houses.
just
No, they're
training.
in practice too.
So they have a lot going on, but they take a lot of time for our kids. So
Thank you so much.
One quick follow-up.
Yeah.
So unlike every other sport, like there's external motivating factors. Football or wrestling, you don't perform, you get blown up or beat or whatever. What do you think is the best contributing factor that, you know, you guys coach or preach or whatever that kind of instills that grittiness to where you have to run through the pain, right? That you're the only one holding yourself back.
Yeah, there's so many messages throughout the season. We always do a weekly theme, and we do a message in the beginning of the week, and then we celebrate those who fulfilled that message the very best. I do think we often come back to nothing we preach is about running. That always helps those who running isn't their thing. But also we often tell the kids, the person you told a line as at the beginning of the race is not the person who will finish the race. You're gonna change throughout that race, and if you give yourself the opportunity, there's always that moment of, oh crud, what's going on? And you just gotta break through it. And the cool thing is a coach in that circumstance is like, I can't call a timeout, Abby can't call a timeout. It's like, you gotta respond on your own. And that's why I love it, is because that is a life lesson. Like, you gotta keep going when you don't want to. And I think that's what it is. It's like this proud moment of, no one forced me to do this. I did it on my own. And if I don't, I'll just tell people like, make mistakes, like whatever. We got another chance next week. So I'll let you answer that though too, Abby.
Yeah, I guess I just have like an example of that. I don't know if I'm answering this perfectly, but it's just another like shining moment throughout the season. We had a girl who ran all summer, and then I think season came, we started, and I think she got really nervous. I don't think I can do it, so she didn't come out. The girls kept asking her, come on, you can do it. And she's like, I don't know. She's never run cross country before. Running's not really her thing. She's getting ready for a winter sport. So she ended up coming about halfway through her season. So our first meet was Osceola, which is a really tough course. And so we're warming up, and all of a sudden she's like just crying, and she's like, I just don't think I can do this. Can I just watch this one? Can I just watch? I'm like, no, just get out there and do it 1 mile at a time. Literally 1 mile at a time. We'll be at the mile marker. If you want to drop that in, go for it. But just get to the mile. She's like, okay. So she's just crying. The race starts, she's still crying. She gets to the mile. And I'm like, you already ran a mile. She's like, okay, I can do one more. So we get to the 2 miles. She's like, still thumbs up. So she finally finishes, gets to the 3 mile race, which is so neat. So she's crying because she's so proud of herself and just seeing that fulfillment. So she really only had a couple of races throughout the season because she started so late. So conference was her last race because only varsity moves on to sectionals. And after the race, she's crying. And I said, oh my gosh, you okay? Are you hurt? She's like, I'm just so sad I started so late because I just want to keep going. So it's just so neat to see, like you said, how they're just changing throughout the season and they're gaining confidence. And I think the best thing about cross country is you're really only trying to beat yourself. It's such an individual sport. It's a team sport. But I think just like watching that progress for yourself is just so powerful and just pushing beyond barriers that they didn't think they could do. So
Abby said one of the best things I think I've ever heard a coach say this year, and I'm going to steal it. Yep. And I said to Ada, because I don't understand anything about cross country, and clearly, and I said, how do you know? Like, how do you know how to pace yourself? And she said, well, Coach Dilcher just told me to make sure I'm always a little uncomfortable. And I really, really liked that.
I just want to, I have to express some pride. Try not to cry. But Abby graduated with Catherine, and I'm so proud of her. But I've said this in front of Anna and Catherine. I'm most proud of my son, who's a public school teacher. And there's 4 or 5 women that graduated with Catherine that are teachers here, and they're awesome. They're just amazing. So thanks.
We're the lucky ones, so thank you guys.
Thank you guys for doing that.
Yes. Thanks, you guys. Drive safe.
You just gotta get all emotional.
I think it's time to talk
All right,
to
let's do that.
Mark
Dan.
and Johnson.
Oh, shoot. All right, so we are going to comments by board members, superintendent. I do want to say that we're gonna kind of move our agenda around a little bit. We're going to not have a closed session tonight. Tim is not with us. And then under the schedule of presentations, we're gonna move Eric Kivisto from Margaret Johnson up to B, and then Dee's gonna do it after that. Just Eric says he would love to stay and learn, but I was like, well,
I don't know why you wouldn't want
he thinks things like that are, but I'm like, well, we'll switch it around. So those are the changes in our agenda for this evening. And also in consideration, we'll move December 9th. A couple of us had a conflict for that Wednesday, December 11th meeting. And so it was posed like, oh, are we gonna have enough for a quorum? So we did move the December board meeting date to Monday, December 9th. It will be here at 7 o'clock. Next up is the CTE open house recap. And I was there. Anybody else?
I wasn't able to.
No. Okay. It was awesome. It was like, we've been working on this for 4 years. You know, I think of, you know, we were on those committees planning it, like the pre-planning, even before we started the actual building. We had to think about what the community wanted, thought about the community who we wanted to get involved to get them on board. So they would be voices in this whole thing. So it's like we've been working on it since I've been on the board, and that's been 4.5 years. So to finally have that moment of we made it, we did it, and it was such a fun project, successful. And then to show it off to the community, which it was very well attended. It was I had a little, it brought me pure joy to just see that. And then the kids there demonstrating, leading the tour somewhat. The tours would come into a room and they had students there doing what they do and just explaining it. And I think it was such a gift to our community, our kids, our teachers, everybody involved, because it's gorgeous and can't say enough. Margaret Johnson, Eric, Ryan, Wald, everybody. It was a fun night. I think they had treats there. There was raffles of things that the kids had made, like cutting boards, little plant things, t-shirts. It was super cool. We are making our own t-shirts. You go into the school store. There's a tag on it, how much it costs, but also who it was made by. So it's like handcrafted from our school. Couldn't be prouder of all the time that the teachers and students and staff have put into it. So it was amazing. All right. So anybody else have anything about that? Okay, we will move on to congratulations to Nate, our newly appointed board member. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Happy to have you
for the
here.
opportunity.
Super happy that you're here. So I guess we'll do the oath of office. And Callie's got something you have to read. You can just stay right there.
Okay.
So you'll just read this all out and then sign.
I, Nathan Stork, having been elected or appointed to the office of St. Croix Central School Board of the state of Wisconsin, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Welcome. Ta-da.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, and then Kelly's got some dates for the upcoming election. So.
Yeah, so we have 3 open positions this year. So Jeff, Dave, and Nate, you all have some paperwork there. So if you are interested in running again, the top 2 pages or top 2 packets you'll fill out and get back to me. If you're not interested in running the one on the back, the notification of non-candidacy, then you can fill out that one and disregard the others. They're technically due December 27th. If you know if you're running or not, it would be appreciated if you could get them in at the December board meeting. But if you do need the extra time, please take it. Yeah, and then if anybody.
What's the date of the election?
April 1st.
That's
And
a
if we
odd
need a
date.
primary, then it will be February.
April Fool's Day?
It's also known as a referendum.
Any questions? Okay, so next order of business is we need the election of vice president as Josh was that. And so we need to just look at that seat for now. We do have the reorganization in May of all of the officers, but at this point, the election of vice president. So I would like to open the nominations for vice president.
Nominate Lance.
Second.
Second.
Sorry, bud.
All right, thank you.
All right, who did it? So we got Jeff making the motion.
I don't think
Second.
it requires a second.
Oh, we don't. Okay, are there any other nominations? All right, we have to close the floor, right, or close the votes.
Move we close nominations.
Okay.
That we do vote on. We need a second.
Second.
Derek made the second to close. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Lance,
We actually have to vote.
we do have to vote for Lance, all right. Everybody who's in favor of Lance as the vice president? All in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? All right, Lance, welcome.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
So is this Lance's job now?
It
Yes.
is. You've got the young eyes
I
because
didn't
it
get
has.
adequate time to go
Last
through
month it was
names.
like
No
this
one can
big.
read that over.
Holy.
Yeah, so. All right, that sounds good. All right, so now that is done, 9, scheduled presentations by guests and staff members. Well, Sandy.
She ran out. She went to go get some water, that's right, she'll be back in a second.
Okay,
First grade.
all right, so we've got Sandy and is our food service director here at St. Croix Central.
Yes.
And she is with her Chartwell's representative, Donato. Here we are, Guida. It wasn't as good as I did it practicing in the
nailed it.
hall, but, all right, so thank you, welcome for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you for the great supper.
I'm
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Those scones.
Yeah.
Bite size,
Yeah.
very smart.
You do lose count of how many you eat when they're that
Yeah.
size.
It was wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope it wasn't too hot or spicy.
Good.
Okay, good. Kids are good. So I did not send you my newsletter for October because I wanted to present it tonight. So October, we celebrate Apple Crunch. It's a statewide celebration of local apples. So right here we have pictured Minnetonka. Now I'm sorry that some of my apples came from Minnesota because of my purveyor. But if you scroll down just a little bit, we just talked a little bit, just keep on scrolling, Callie, please. So I did a display at the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school to taste 4 different kinds of apples. Macintosh, Minnetonka, which is like sweet tango, Honeycrisp, of course, and then First Kiss. So the kids got to try every single apple. I cut like almost 4 cases of apples at the elementary school and at the middle school, the high school, they all loved it. The second grade reading event, I have a little picture here because I'm advertising being able to do other kinds of caterings. I mean, of course, I cater to you, but some of the other faculty members and staff don't realize that they could spend their money with the food service department and have a little something extra for any event that they have. So here is the second grade reading event that we had. We had scones, of course, and a little bit of apple juice and so on. It was quite successful. You can scroll up a little bit, or nope, we wanna go, the other way, honey.
Oh, down.
There we go. Oh yeah, down, and that's going up. So keep on going, Sue. So my Discovery Kids now, so I don't know if they have Fuel Up to Play. Do you wanna go down just a little bit more so you can see the kids? So I take the Discovery Kids, I call them the Discovery Kids. They're really the Fuel Up to Play 60 kids. And each month I meet with them, and my goal is to have them be able to make a snack that they don't need a toaster or an oven or anything or knives or really anything. So we did a sun butter banana roll up. So it's a whole grain tortilla with some sun butter. with a banana, and then they roll it up. So, and I always have a Ziploc bag so they can take it on the bus. And what I really enjoy hearing is like, oh my God, I can have this as a snack, later on, or if they had basketball or they had some other kind of event that they had to go. But there's all my kids this year. There's my 12 kids that I have that I'll be meeting with every month. To the next page. And then I just have a little display as to what it looked like when I was doing the apple tasting. They were just, I love it now when I go to the elementary school and they see me down the hallway and they're like, oh, are we having Discovery Kitchen today? What are we tasting today? And then one second grader came up to his teacher and said, is this the time that we get the trading cards? And I'm like, nope, that's Mood Boost. That's coming in February. So we'll have 6 weeks of Mood Boost tasting. And they get a little card. We'll talk about that later on. So just keep on scrolling. So it was a huge event. The kids just love it. That was at the middle school. And then here I am at the high school. It's just fun. They're getting to know me. They're getting to be able to trust when I say taste it. It tastes pretty good. And I think that's the end of it. It's pretty short. But we love it. Now in November we did Discovery Kitchen was all about fall vegetables. So I did roasted butternut squash and we tasted it at every single school. And here's what I came away from it. Boys like it more than girls. And 95% of the kids didn't know what a butternut squash was.
Wow.
And what I loved about it was that they were like, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
That is not the reaction I get in my house.
The elementary kids loved it more. And then as soon as I got to the high school, I'm like, come on. And they're like, I don't know.
Did you put brown sugar and butter in it or what?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, just to get them, like, you want to taste the squash. You want to be able to taste the squash. Orange vegetables are very good for you. They're good for all kinds of things. But I wanted to do, there was another Discovery Kitchen recipe, and it was butternut squash macaroni and cheese. So we'd steam the heck out of the butternut squash, puree it, mix it in with the cheese sauce, and then put it onto the pasta. However, I had some sickness with my staff, so I wasn't able to do it, but I'm still thinking about just kind of sneaking it in there because I brought back macaroni and cheese as an entree this year. I was able to get some commodity cheese, and so it's making it a lot easier for the ladies because we don't have a lot of equipment for them to have these big pots of boiling water. They have to do most of their pasta in the steamer. It's dangerous, and it takes a little bit of a challenge. But I was able to get this cheese sauce where they don't have to boil the milk or warm up the milk, take all the slices of American cheese, melt it down, create, this wonderful cheese sauce. Don't burn it, don't do it, and then mix it. So the kids are very happy. We had macaroni and cheese and a cinnamon breadstick at the high school. So that was a huge hit. I haven't quite brought the cinnamon stick to elementary because it's quite labor intensive. But one of the reasons I came here was to introduce my new area director, Donata Guido, and Guida.
Guida, yeah, that's right.
So
I
you
get that a lot.
have the floor.
Thanks. I wanted to at least introduce myself so you can get a face to it. I've been in the culinary world in one way or another for the last 35 years. I was an executive chef in country clubs for a long time. And then I wanted to, I realized I was missing my kids' lives. So I left restaurants and started contract management. I've been doing that since probably 25 years ago. I was in a lot of higher education. I was the resident district manager at Marquette University for 15 years. Then I became a regional director in higher education. And then I realized I was traveling to 7 states and 215 days in a hotel last year. And I kind of wanted to hang out with my wife a little more. So I took this opportunity to be an area director. I went to Stout. I lived in, my oldest son was born in Menominee, so I know the area really well. Lived in southeastern Wisconsin, but it's a quick short drive up 94. So great leader here. Also have River Falls, and so I'm in the area a lot. So it's already my 2 months with the company. I've been up here 3 times, so
He helped on the catering today. I put him to work.
Nice.
So was those dishes.
I saw him schlepping plates.
Yeah, it's like, you don't stand around.
I
I'll manage
was
anybody.
here 2 weeks
I'll
ago,
manage
and
anybody.
she did put me on dishes.
I
I wash dishes.
know, if you're gonna come visit me, I gotta do dishes at the elementary school.
But yeah, but I'm a foodie, and so I'm all about being part of the community, teaching kids. It's really your mind, body, and soul, but to be part of it and food being fun. But the reality is growing up is tough. Middle school, high school, especially when you're just kind of getting into your own, and we're their constant. We're in the human being business. We realize that everybody's an individual, and when you get those faces that are welcoming, it's life changing. What's great is, especially when I'm in colleges, I'll run into people I've worked with when they were students, and they know who I am. They know the impact we made, and it's a lot more. I mean, restaurants are great, but the real, rewarding part is you're impacting lives, which is what we try to instill with. The reality is, food is easy. When you're in the human being business, how can you make an impact? How do you do those pace changers like we do in these reports? It goes further, because you could be fourth grader, and 10 years later, there's pieces of that you remember of how I was involved in that, and it's a big deal. It makes an impact, So remember that they're in different stages of their lives, and how can we impact it? So we appreciate you having us.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for making the trip up.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's easy.
It's not 7 states.
It's not 7 states, not having to be in an airport all the time. So, and it does, it's strange that it is. Menominee is a big part of my life. So, I mean, my grandparents lived there, they're buried there. So, I have a lot, my cousins live in Hudson. So when they were like describing my accounts, I'm like, oh, I know that area way better than you think. So definitely understand the community. So I appreciate it.
So December 9th, are we doing another meal on December 9th?
No, we did it only
think
because
so.
we had.
I think so.
Okay.
Just go.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's what was set up.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Good to meet you.
I'm
Okay.
staying in town.
Oh, you are.
Well,
Next up, Eric.
Are you limping?
Oh, no,
You
that foot
limping?
again?
Well, I'm always limping, right?
No, he's walking. Let's just be
That's
grateful.
a
He's
positive.
without
Tommy
his-
Two Boots was back to walking normal
No,
last
Then
night.
we had some surgeries, and
Oh,
now
geez.
we're back to
Not the knee surgery, right?
That's true.
good.
It's gonna be too close.
You do this and this. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, you too. Hey, welcome. Congratulations.
See you on the 9th, Sandy.
Bye, thanks. Take care.
Thank you. We should really just do that. Wouldn't that be
Every-
nice?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, good evening, guys. Like you said, Eric, 4 years, 2 years, it goes by fast, so kind of getting to the tail end of this. So tonight I wanted to give an update on a few things. Obviously, we're always very focused on budget, so in front of you guys, I got the budget sheet. So we'll touch through that. If you have questions or concerns, we can discuss those numbers. Want to go through just a few odds and ends of it wrapping up. So punch list items. You guys hired Terry Freeze from CX Partners as your commissioning agent. I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure to meet him. I got an update from him as we're wrapping up that whole commissioning HVAC control size of things. And I really want to end it with emphasizing the warranty and what to expect in the next year, 2 years, 3 years as you guys start operating these new spaces. So starting with the budget, I know you guys have seen the sheet many times, but formatting wise, in the columns, the top portion is the construction portion of the work, right? So you got the GMP column, that's where we were at 2 years ago when we started the project. And then projected is where we are at today. As you can see, we went up about $2 million, and then when we get down to the owner items and then the funding sources, big thanks is to the interest you guys incurred through the course of the project. And then with some of the work that Terry Freeze did with some of the focus on energy grants, which was very beneficial, big props to him. Moving down, professional services, that has not changed. That has been pretty static for the last 2 years. And then we get down to the owner items, which I think is very cool representation of what has been able to be added to the project over the last 2 years. I won't go through every individual item on here, but you can see it's almost a full page long of items that are complete. Again, at the bottom, you got priorities 1 through 20. Those were items we were tracking on at this point in the project, most likely due to fundings and where we're at, but those aren't gonna happen. But with that being said, you can see that there's a good 20 items, very sizable items, most of these that we're able to move forward, which I think that is a big positive. And then moving down to the bottom on the second page, grand totals. Like I mentioned, funding sources, your original referendum amount was 30 million. And then you were able to get that CTE grant space, which is very beneficial. On the column in the middle was the original, and if you go to the right, the projected referendum, a dollar amount never changed. You can see the CTE grant. There's some conversations with the college. We were able to get another 200,000 out of that, which was beneficial. The real big one, I think, big thanks to Jen and how she placed some of those CDs. 1.23 million in interest, and again, that was as of 7/18. That was a projected amount. Jen's not here today. Chatted with her in a bit, but I would envision that's even higher than that. And then down below, you can see the focus on energy rebates from Terry Freeze at 113,000. Again, that was projected back in the middle of September. And I would envision that could even creep up a little bit more. With that being said, right now over and under, it's showing 20, but with some of the contingency that we didn't allocate at the middle school, right now we're right there tracking at 0. But again, with some of the interest that hasn't been realized yet and potential focus on energy cost, we're in the green, and I think it's an awesome place to be right now. So before I move on to some of the other items, any questions on the budget? Any numbers? Okay, jumping to punch list. Starting with the outside, right now, if you guys have been by the school, we're finalizing the shed in the back, which is another awesome add that we were able to do. Should be wrapped up here right after Thanksgiving break. Hopefully the elective coaches order is gonna utilize that, start putting stuff in there that second week in December before it starts really snowing hard. Past that, the site, everything you see around the new buildings is complete. With that being said, we're gonna be on standby in the spring. Once we get snow melts, things start to warm up, we'll see how the grass is taking. If it's not, we're on standby. Those contractors that did that work, they'll come back out and they'll prep it, make it right. So that's important to know. Inside, the punch list itself, we'll say that's 100% done, but as you can envision, as teachers start utilizing their spaces, there's things that pop up here or there, which I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but so for the warranty part, I think we got a really good direct line to all the maintenance staff, whether it's Nick Yorder and his team, Mac and his team in the grounds, and the principals. So as we start going through this winter into the spring, 2 years down the road, it's important to direct contact here. I ain't going anywhere, so we'll just make sure you guys reach out. We'll take care of it, and things will break. It's the nature of buildings, so we'll be taking care of that. Talking about commissioning really quick, Terry Freeze is the commissioning agent. I think that was a very smart hire on your guys' end to get him on board. Right now, he's doing a final once-over of the HVA systems, the new graphics and head ends, everything that controls those systems. Now that the space has been occupied for the last 2 months, and specific to the high school and elementary school and middle school kind of always get put on the back burner, which same applies to those schools. Now that the spaces have been utilized with kids and the equipment being utilized for the last 2 months, Terry's gonna be on site right after Thanksgiving to do a once-over, double check everything's operating correctly. Now that it hasn't had a time to have a little bit of wear and tear on it. So that'll be finalized. And again, Terry wanted me to relay on to you guys as we get through the winter, the really cold months. He's always gonna be on standby as well. More of a contact for Nick, but any concerns with controls, anything like that, great reference as well. And then warranties. So how it typically works for the elementary school, the middle school, or the high school, we'll put together what we call a closeout packet. The middle school and the elementary school are complete. It'll be distributed to the maintenance staff. Essentially, this book, or in this instance, a flash drive, it houses anything that's applicable to the project. So owner manuals, different maintenance procedures that need to be followed, broken down by different divisions and work categories. As far as warranties, every contractor, including ourselves that was on the project, over the board gets a 1-year labor and material warranty, and that runs out pretty quick. But with that, some of the more elaborate, I wouldn't say elaborate things, but the flooring, the ceiling, things that do seem to fail, anywhere from a 10 to a 15-year warranty, and that's all built into those packets. But more importantly with that, again, the 1-year warranty only lasts to September 1st of 2025 with that. My phone's always on, so you guys just call if anything comes up. Rambled on quickly, but any questions, concerns as we're wrapping up?
I just have one quick question on the lighting at the high school, the outside parking lot. I know we talked about maybe possibly being on a timer or something. Has that been addressed or fixed? Do we know? Cause I know they talked about like at 10 o'clock, it's supposed to go off.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that, so I was just curious if we.
Yeah, I think Erica had relayed on that concern, and that was, I'll say, a month ago. Since then, a full-fledged lighting control system has been installed.
Okay.
If you're still seeing the lights on even at this time, just let us know and we'll have to reprogram it to make it to set correctly. I vaguely remember.
I mean, there's a few that stand, right, for security reasons? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just have one ask. Can you make the speed bumps bigger?
Absolutely. I like those things personally. But you don't like them?
My feelings that rattle out every morning at 5:52 when I roll over them.
Because you're driving a Ford.
Just rattle on the side.
You're
Take
driving
the
a
sidewalk.
Ford, that's
Yeah.
why.
Take the sidewalk.
I think they do their job.
They do. They do. You guys just gotta find the right speed to hit them because. if
I
you
hit them
the
at
right
30,
speed,
I hit them at
shocks
20, I
them.
hit them at 15.
What's the magic number? 30?
You don't feel them as bad.
Uh-oh.
It's not your truck anyway. They'll do the maintenance for it.
Anything else, guys?
Looks great.
Oh, nice job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice
looks
work.
great.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the work, guys. And seriously, I want to emphasize, anything comes up in the however long, don't hesitate to reach out.
Nick, I don't remember, you were relatively new as a project manager when you started this project 10 years ago. When
That long ago.
weren't you relatively new? Had you had other big projects like this before?
Not new to market in Johnson, but been in the industry for about 10 years.
Who'd you work for before?
You can't.
Council Anderson.
Oh, you were.
Oh,
We don't like that.
just, it's been, and I haven't watched it as close as Erica and Tim, of course, but just every time that somebody asks it, hey, when she and I went out to look at the new AstroTurf and there were some pop water bags laying around and like, oop, they're gone. I mean, it just was, you know, it wasn't you, but it was the people that were laying that and they just didn't understand that we kept a clean site and we mentioned it and it like, poof, it was, and whatever it was, you guys were Johnny on
Above
this
and
part.
beyond.
Yeah.
But I stand by it. It's been an awesome team effort. It's not only Mark and Johnson and their son, but collaboration between, I think, all of us as a team has been exceptional. So a lot of lessons learned, positive ones from this project, in my opinion. So
Thank you.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Eric.
Have a good one.
You sure you don't wanna stay?
Um.
I think I will.
A lot of
Yep,
paper.
you are up.
Can I leave with him?
Well, and I was gonna say, I know you guys probably are not as far, I'm driving Menominee, we've gotten a couple texts that roads
Roads
are
are
not good,
bad.
main
Roads are
or
shit.
historical, so I'm
Oh,
taking back
no.
roads
Okay.
home, so just be careful when you leave and take your time.
All right. Brandon,
All right.
can you listen?
Please take a packet, there's lots of extras, but take a packet, it's got the report cards in it. And then this is the data at a glance, front and back, so take one of those, please.
Yeah, I think the clicker's not on, so you have to turn it on.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Okay. All right, well, I got to do this last year here. This is the, I guess, official sharing with the board our required state accountability reports. So just to preface this a little bit, these reports came out
unredacted, which means student information was more visible, small groups were not closed off. The reports that you have are the public reports, so information is redacted, small group sizes and scores are not in there. Since the time that these were released in October, and we have them available to us in what's called SAFE, which is a portal. I have presented to the 3 buildings, to their staff. I presented to the virtual school. And then now moving forward, I'll be going into all the PLCs coming up in December with grade level specific and content level specific data. That's not just from this, but also then embedding the local data that they have as well, Fast Bridge Star, all that stuff. So a lot of information, a lot of meetings. The staff response is always amazing. Most are very interested to see what our scores are, see what our data is, so that they continue to be reflective practitioners. So please stop me anytime, ask for questions. I'm gonna go at a brisk speed, but I certainly don't want you to think you can't ask questions, because this is not the world that you live in every day. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. All right, so what is in a report card? We've got demographic data, priority area calculations, and I'll go through what those 4 are. They have not changed in the past couple of years. Subgroup information. So when you see the term subgroup information, that's going to be talking about any demographic or group that could be combined. So economically disadvantaged or undisadvantaged. So their economic status, their EL status or their English proficiency status. Students with disabilities or students without disabilities, and then it also goes into gender, ethnicity, all of those sorts of things. Comparisons to the state, so you'll notice on the front of all the report cards, you'll see the school scores, and then that gray line is always the state comparison score. Some student participation, so if you look at the high school report, you're going to see lots of added information that's been on there for, this is the 2nd, possibly 3rd year now, that has to do with dual credit, AP, music, art, theater courses that are offered now, things like that, because they wanted to try and add in additional pieces of information that would represent us more as a whole school picture versus just assessment, attendance, things like that. None of that information is used for accountability scoring. And then, like I mentioned, some course offerings. What is not in a report card? In my opinion, it's really big things, right? Student climate data. All of our building principals, including the virtual school, have already done a student climate data, and those scores are, I believe, 95% or above for all of our buildings, stating that every single student in each of those buildings has a trusted adult that they can go to. 95%, beginning of the school year within 5 weeks. That's pretty amazing. That's not on this report card. Our adult culture. The Q12 will be going out the 2nd week of December, I believe, which asks staff questions about why they want to be at SCC. You guys know this is my 2nd year here. I've been in a lot of districts. I've never been in a place like this, and that's not just something that I say. It truly is a special place. That's not on our report card. Family engagement, community satisfaction. So our, anything that the community provides as far as information about why their kids go here. Parent feedback, surveys, things like that. None of this is going to be on there. And then the newest one I put on there is our early literacy programming, scores and information. If you've heard anything about Act 20 in the past year or so, or the science of reading or any of those things, there's a lot of information that we now are changing, processes that are changing, personal reading plans that are coming out at the elementary school. This is primarily for 4K through 3rd grade. That information is not on the report cards yet. You'll hear me in June present to you that information. I would anticipate that at some point they're going to add that onto the report card, which will be good information. It basically talks about percentage of students at grade level by the time they get to 3rd grade for literacy. So I had each of the principals send me one picture, and that's all I gave them. I said, send me one picture that you think represents your school. Okay, so when we're talking about perspectives as we look at our report cards, top left-hand corner, we've got some students in their workspaces. Top right-hand corner, virtual school field trip.
bottom right-hand corner, homecoming week, staff dance-off. So if you have a high school student, you may have heard about that. We did get to watch that as an admin team. It was pretty cool. And then bottom left-hand is a text message from a parent on the cross-country team. So it's very interesting, you know, that the cross-country team was here tonight to highlight their kids, because this was a quote from a student, because we're family. That's why. You don't teach kids to say that. That's just where they come from, right? So a couple of changes for 23-24. Achievement proficiency scores changed. So ELA and math have new standards as of 2020 and 2021. It takes until last year for those to actually be updated on the state assessment, the forward. So when they did that, you may have read about this in the news, it was all over a couple months ago, July and August, that they changed the cut scores for what the level was to get to advanced or proficient. They also changed the names of them. It used to be below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. It's now developing, they changed it, and I'm still stuck on below basic, basic. Approaching, developing, needing, and advanced. So they changed the cut scores. And what you may have seen in the news was Wisconsin's lowering their standards. Wisconsin's making it easier for kids to pass scores. Wisconsin had the third toughest cut scores in the country. They were unrealistic for students that grade level to meet proficient. Now the standards are much more appropriate to what kids should be able to do at those certain grade levels. So that's why the cut scores changed, okay? So you're gonna see updated displays. This year, because of those cut score changes, normally you can see 3 years of trend just right in front of you. And you can go on Wise-Public and see all of this, but it was nice when you could see 3 years. Because those cut scores changed, you can't compare year to year to year because they're not the same data. So I'll talk to you a little bit about how they scale scored everything, but as far as the displays, you get 1 year now. So it's gonna look like this. You're gonna get 1 bar graph instead of 30.
How does adjusting the cut score change anything that we do in educating kids? Like if it's a hard level to achieve, so what?
Yeah.
How does that?
I think it was giving educators a mindset that nothing they were doing was working.
Okay.
Because that's a great question. Like, let's set the bar high, right? But it was so high, and when Wisconsin wasn't seeing any movement, and we are already really struggling to find teachers, and all of a sudden you see, well, nobody's making a difference, and according to this, right, scores. Sure. That's hard. That's hard as a teacher. That's hard as a principal. It's hard as an administrator to see those. And so this was a shift, hopefully, to make educators and buildings realize we are doing a good job. We are doing a good job. That doesn't mean scores changed, because like I said, they changed the calculations. So it wasn't like everybody's overall scores skyrocketed. They intentionally changed and scale scored, so that did not happen. So this is what you would see.
The board had a goal to be top 10 in the state, not top 10%,
Yep.
but top 10 based on this.
Mhm.
And, you know, we went from 160 to 25, I think.
Yeah.
But the teachers felt demoralized because they didn't achieve this goal that
Yeah.
realistically wasn't achievable, because you had all these private schools that
Absolutely.
snuck in there.
Yeah.
And we were top 10 of public schools, but not ever.
Yeah.
And so I think those, sometimes if you have it, the bar set too high,
Yeah.
it's like, what the hell?
Absolutely. And when I present this information, I keep that perspective in mind too, because I certainly am not going to present this to point fingers and say, this is why we have this problem. You're the reason. That is not it. It's a conversation about, this is where we're at. We can't change it. We can't make excuses. Where are we going now? And what are we going to do to try and change it? So. This is just talking about the scale adjusting. So because the changing in percentage, when we first looked at this in Wise Dash, when these came out in end of July or August, beginning of August, I think it was, I went in and I looked, and I will tell you, DPI did not communicate this at all with the DACs, the district assessment coordinators across the state. Typically, they're very good at communicating. We knew nothing. So I went in and looked, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we did amazing. We still did do good. But when you're jumping 30% in a category, you're like, oh my gosh, it had to be because of this, 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 and this. Then they put out, after the data was out, then they put out the communication to all of us about, hold on, this is why. So they scale adjusted everything. So in a typical year, 50% of schools will go up in their achievement and 50% of schools will go down. This year, because of those cut scores changing, 99% of schools went up. So that's a great thing for mindset, but it's also not accurate. 99% of schools didn't actually go up, right? So what they did is they created a formula way above my math level, and they adjusted it so that 50% of schools would go up and 50% of schools would go down. So as you see these, you're gonna see in the boxes that I have, you're gonna see the scores exactly the same as last year, or sometimes I even wrote same. That means that that actual achievement score, only achievement, actually went down. So instead of giving you that lower score, they just gave you the same score as last year. Okay, so you'll see that a few times because we have that happen several times. Okay, and again, that is to mitigate volatility between year after year. Hopefully, it will start to flatten out. To be quite honest, it would be really nice if they'd stop making changes so that we could compare like 7 years. We don't have that. It's never happened. They've never not changed it. So we're just gonna go with it and do the best we can. So priority areas, these are the 4 priority areas that we have. Again, these have not changed since last year. Achievement, PPP, points-based proficiency. So depending on the 4 categories, your child is given a score based on their achievement. So if they're in the advanced, they get 1.5, 1 point for being at meeting, 0.5 for being at developing, and 0 points if they're in that old below basic. So ideally, if every student were meeting grade level, our score would be at a 1. Okay, and then they transfer it into a percentile. These are 3-year weighted scores. And this is why one of the first things that folks will say, community staff, whatever, they'll say, well, it's just 1 test. None of this is 1 test or 1 year. Everything is a minimum of 3 years. Everything is a minimum of 3 years of data, weighted the most heavily on the current year, and then it goes back for 3 years. Growth, with achievement, 3rd grade ELA, and then 8th grade math are also double put on your report card, so 3rd grade is on the elementary. That's because we know statistically, if students are proficient in reading by 3rd grade, they have a much higher likelihood of being successful in middle school and high school and post-secondary. 8th grade math is the indicator for math. If students are proficient in 8th grade math, they are much more likely to be successful in high school courses or beyond, okay? Growth, value added. So you're gonna see a score of 0 to 6. This is the one that I really, really look at because it's the biggest bang for your buck to make changes through our intervention systems or our student supports, okay? Most scores are between 2 and 4, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But again, this is based on 3 years. If you see a 3, that's average. 50% are above, 50% are below. Target group, this is a separate report card almost for our students scoring in the bottom 25% achievement-wise. So this is really helpful because I actually get a list of these students and I give them to those grade level teachers and they match if those students are in interventions. They match how those students are doing in their classrooms and they can see if maybe it was a bad test day or maybe they're not a great test taker, and they can use all those sources to make sure that they're in the correct places for interventions. On track to post-secondary, that is looking at your achievement in 3rd or 8th grade, your chronic absenteeism at the middle school and high school level, and then your, or at all 3 buildings, and then attendance at elementary and middle, and your graduation at high school. Chronic absenteeism and attendance are often confused. Attendance is an overall school calculation, so it's how many days of school are possible, how many days all of your kids have been there, okay? Chronic absenteeism is a student rate. That's how many of your students have missed more than 10% of the school year at the end of the year. So we actually have a tracker. I just ran it last week for all three buildings. The virtual school is different. So they can see right now, if that data was collected, who are your red, yellow, green, as far as meeting those standards. And then I'll pull those 4 times a year so that the principals have that information. Because think about it, meeting in small groups, pulling those kids aside, talking to parents at the elementary level, because at the elementary level, right, kids aren't driving themselves to school. Why aren't they here? So again, 10%, 18 days, if they're gone 18 days. All right, so value added growth, when you see this, when you get in there, value added starts in 3rd grade. Students take the forward exam based on all of their demographics. So their ethnicity, their gender, any subgroup they're a part of, they are given a predicted growth to 4th grade. So it always starts at 3rd grade. They're given a value added, or their score is given a value added for our school if they go above that predicted score. It's a value negative if the score that they get in 4th grade is below where they're predicted to get based on all of their comparisons with students like them in Wisconsin. It readjusts every year, so it's not like they always start at that 3rd grade, so it'll readjust every year. These are those value-added growth scores and how they transfer over. Again, you can see 3.0 is a 50th percentile. When I look at it, that's the base of where I want any of our growth scores to be. That's the bottom. If it's below that, I go, yep, we need to look at that, right? And the teachers know that now too. The building principals know that now too, because we really focus on that. All right, this is our district. So district report cards and report cards to the public came out yesterday. So I don't have all of these numbers memorized yet, but I did get them in there because I think it's a reasonable question to go, well, how are other districts doing near us? So in CSA 11, there's 39 districts. Currently this year, we are 5th out of 39 with our score. That's exactly where we were last year. Okay. The priority area weights just gives you an idea of where our school as a district is weighted. It's going to be 25-25 for target group and on track. You'll see on all of the report cards, the achievement and growth are going to be different at every school and at the district. That is a weighted calculation based on your percentage of economically disadvantaged in your building. The more students that you have that are economically disadvantaged, the higher you are scored on growth. The lower your economically disadvantaged percentage of students, the more you're weighted on achievement. Makes sense, right? Opportunity, family engagement, just some of those things. So to give you an idea, our average across the district economically disadvantaged is roughly 20% at each school. It's a little bit higher at the elementary. More parents fill out free and reduced lunch. Give you an idea of other districts, Siren, Luck, Webster, you're looking at close to 70%.
In these
Most of the
four,
districts I worked in were about 40 to 45. Old
These four?
Boysville, Menominee.
do you have a sense of where these 4 are? The
Like
4 above
Elmwood?
us?
For their percentages, Prescott is very close to us. Elk Mound's a little bit higher. I don't know what Elmwoods is. Yeah. I do know Elmwood's high school and middle school scores are very good. Their elementary is not as high. Ours is higher. But those other two they're high. Okay. Quick scores for Virtual Academy. Now I gotta do a solid shout out to this group. First thing that you should see on that blue bar there is meets expectations. This is the first time that our virtual school has met expectations. They were so excited to see that because they are very dedicated educators, and every time they get a report card, it says fails to meet expectations. They are working with a wonderful group of students, but a unique group of students and a unique group of families from Milwaukee to Rhinelander to you name it. So they are doing good things there. So as you look at this, if you see items in parentheses, that means that it was a decline from the year before. So that 0.7 there for graduation, It's probably one student, but that would be what that represents. Now, a reminder, all of these calculations that you are gonna see and that are on here have to be full academic year students. So they have to be here in third Friday of September, and they have to stay until the end of the testing window, which is like the last week of April. The only one that is not those parameters is chronic absenteeism. Those kids have to be here 90 days, not consecutive. So for our virtual school, I believe they had like 95-ish students that were in this category. We know right now, what are they at, like 330? But think about how many kids came after third Friday of September.
Right.
Or will be leaving or joining after. So 93 kids is what they had last year. All right, so this is just their front page, which you have in front of you. Again, taking a look at, I always say, what pops out at you? I look at their growth. I look at their ELA. They're right with the state. Their ELA for growth. Their ELA achievement is almost at the state average.
Does our district economic disadvantage apply to the virtual school even
They have
though
their own.
90% of them are outside the district?
Theirs is only
86%.
40%. So that's a great question. So anything that's in the virtual school does not filter into our district report. The reason being is because if you have more than 50% open enrollment, it does not lead into your district report card, and they have 90% open enrollment. There are virtual schools in Wisconsin that would go into their district. So. This is their growth scores. This is what I was talking to you about with those growth scores. So you want to see 3.0 or above. So immediately when I showed this to them, they all went, yeah, we know. We need to look at our math. We need to look at our math resources, how we're teaching it, what we're teaching, because you can see their math scores are all below that, and they're in the 1 point something, which means they're between 4 and 12%. We're better than that. So we've already done one data dig. They're looking deeper into it, and that's their main focus all year is their math scores. Look at their ELA. They're all 3.0 or above. So all those groups on the side are all the student groups. Our English proficient students, our students with disabilities that are at 3.1. That's awesome. What does this mean? Talked about this a little bit already. This is the 3-year trend, but they're digging into their math. That's their big focus this year. Even though that's their big focus, I'm working with Steph Posta and 3 of the ELA folks at looking at new ELA resources because they're just not feeling like it's the best that they can have right now. So, again, it's so nice to see from year to year. They're just, good things are happening.
Do we pick our math curriculum or is it just part of the package that we get for curriculum? For this, for
Resource?
the virtual?
No, we
for
can
the-
choose different things. They can choose different things. And some of them are more online at the elementary school. They're not. They're actually things that are given to parents. So, yeah, no, we have choice in all that. All right, elementary school.
You don't know what the state average on track to graduate is, do you? So they were at like 90%. That's pretty good for the
On track.
students there.
Oh, down there, 89.
Yeah.
In our region, most scores are at least that or above. Yeah. I would say a school like the virtual school is going to have a lower score than most of the in-person.
Right.
Yeah.
I meant other virtual schools.
That's one of the things that I do for them. I don't have that done yet. I do like 5 comparisons of district or virtual schools that are similar to them because there's a lot of virtual schools, so we pick the 5 that are closest. Yeah. So elementary school, big jump this year, 78.7 exceeds expectations. See how their ELA says the same? So their achievement for 3rd and 4th grade actually went down this year, but their growth, 22.8 increase. That is huge. And I can tell you, this is why Shelley, one of the reasons she wanted to be here, there are so many things that now are working so smoothly. The data that is being dug into by our interventionists, by our reading specialist, by our instructional coach, by the principals, and then at PLCs weekly at the elementary school. It's amazing. Like, I go in and just watch. It's so cool. What this tells us is that we know kids are getting into the interventions that they need. So this is just the 3-year trend. Currently, our elementary school is the 14th highest overall score out of the 58 elementary schools in C11. Remember, some of the schools, Menominee, River Falls, Rice Lake, they have multiple elementary schools. So we're 14th highest overall out of 58. And we're gonna keep moving. So we have a brand new math resource this year, Bridges. If you have an elementary school student, you've seen that come home.
Unfortunately, I can't help them.
Well, you're on your own on that one. But it's great because it's very hands-on, very engaging. Again, looking at the overall, it's interesting to see the report card. So for the virtual school, the achievement was at like a 17, I think is what it was. Elementary school's at a 36.5. You would expect to see that in an in-person public school. You would expect to see that score higher. But again, that's our 25% of students who scored in the bottom 25%. And it's pretty cool. You see those kids are showing up for school. Again, here's the growth. All green. 4.6 economically disadvantaged. So our students who are identified as economically disadvantaged are growing out of all of those at the highest rate of any of our students. The number at the top that's circled, because I always start there, that's our all students group. So if you put all of our elementary students that are being assessed, 4.1. So again, when we're talking about this report card, it's only 3rd and 4th grade. What are we doing? Well, we know interventions are working, so they're going to continue to build those. We're going to continue to purchase new interventions that meet the needs of our students. And we're looking at our ELA data. Why? Because we want to see if there's a better resource out there that can better serve our students. We've been using units of study for 7 years. I think Shelley, Lindsay, and I were just talking about this today. It's a very instructor intense resource. Is there a better one that's out there that does just as good a job, but is less, you have to have the manual like this to be able to go through it, right? And units of study we know is not on the accepted Act 20 list. That's okay. We have lots of other things that make it fit the needs that we have, but there are other options, and so we're looking at that. Middle school exceeds expectations, 78.8. Middle school, almost everything is very similar to last year. Their score dropped minimally. It was like 0.2 or 0.4 from last year. But they have just teeny tiny changes. Achievement went up and growth went down a little bit, and vice versa. So there's nothing that came out of this that was, I guess, surprising or shocking or anything like that. They're pretty consistent across the board, except for our target group growth up 9.4. What does that tell us? Those kids that are in interventions are getting the right interventions. And here is our middle school from year to year. Comparisons to the state. Again, very similar, the target group to the elementary school. Take a look at those ELA and math achievement and growth. Way above the state in most of them. And you know this is gonna,
the state's priority or the state average in general?
this,
So is this the priority scores from all the schools to create these averages?
just middle schools. So
I know,
the
but
school
just-
that you're
yeah.
at, the school that they're compared to is the school that they are in
They're middle
that
school.
grouping. So our middle school, you know, it's 5.8. is compared to all schools that would be considered a middle school entity, so 6-8,
But in
5-8,
this,
Sure.
in this
sometimes
report,
4-8.
is it just the bottom 25?
The target group doesn't have a comparison. See how they don't have a gray line underneath? There's really no comparison for that. It's really us looking at those specific students, because like I said, we get that list of students. The reason they changed this is because every school, whether your district report card is a 96 or it's a 50, you have students that are scoring in the bottom 25th percentile. So it was much more school friendly in terms of nobody didn't get a score. Where when they had closing the achievement gap, it was a wonky calculation. You couldn't explain it. Nobody understood it. It was all these decimal, I mean, it was very confusing and nobody knew what to do with it. This, we've got a list of names. Here's their growth. So again, I circled the ones that were below. Our students identified as having limited English proficiency, math, 2.7, getting closer. Students with disabilities, 2.1. And proficient last year. So they were proficient last year, but this year they didn't grow as much. So again, we're looking at growth and not achievement. All kids can grow. So especially when you look at something like this, students with disabilities, ELA, they grew at 4.1. Math, 2.1. So that's what we're gonna look at. What are they doing? Which grade level is it that those kids are struggling in? Because we can find that out. So what does this mean? Achievement continues to be 5 points or plus higher than the state, which is awesome. And then they are doing 4 assessments per year to put students into interventions that are specific to their need, ELA or math. And it's not usually just you're in an ELA or you're in a math. It's what specific skill do they need intervention on? Math is a pretty big umbrella. ELA is a pretty big umbrella. Is it fluency? Is it vocabulary? Is it comprehension? Is it phonics? Like, do we need to go back a few years, right? So, and also figuring out which students need to be receiving gifted and talented programming. So, high school scores, quick look. 63.2 meets expectations. Of all of them, this is the hardest one to present to folks because it's the biggest change and not in the direction that we want it to go, right? So I've been into ELA, I've been into social studies, and I've been into science this morning. Having discussions about, okay, what is this what are you seeing from this? What do you think might be the root cause? And really discussing and talking about what we can do. So I've got a slide on the back end that I'll show you things that we have already implemented or started to implement. Okay. So again, if it's in a parenthesis, that means that score went down.
Or if it's same.
Same, down. Okay. So here's our 3-year trend. Comparison to state. So ELA and math achievement wise, we are still above the state. But remember, our district is weighted more on achievement, so that's a good thing, okay? The growth is where we're struggling right now at the high school. The state average is 66 for both, and we're below that. So that's been a huge discussion and so many things. Brian, RJ, Leah, Velker, Director of Special Education, myself, teachers, school psych, Michael Becker, lots of people involved in these discussions. Because teachers don't like the score. I guarantee you Brian doesn't like it, right? He's the first one that's like, all right, let's go. So here's their roll scores. And I did want to put this note on the side because you open that up and you see that and you're like, eh. Although growth scores are an area of improvement, so currently we are better than 24% of schools. You can do the opposite. Our achievement scores are still higher than 66%. So now we need to keep that going up, but we need to close that gap for growth. We need to figure out how to get all of our students growing. So these are some things that are already happening. Working with our EMLSS, so Equitable Multi-Level Systems of Support. RTI, PBIS, I'm sure you've heard those terms. It's now under the big umbrella of EMLSS. Those tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, interventions, all those buzzwords that I have been using and you've heard other people use, that's all under the EMLSS. So we have a very strong system at the elementary school. We have a very strong system at the middle school. Part of that is because we have the staffing. We also have the schedule. High school is a whole nother ballgame. And if there was a school district that had this working perfectly, everybody else would be doing it. There isn't. So we have bonus hour built in. Brian and RJ are very specific on what students should be doing during those times. Okay? We're working with these coaches through CISA 11 to try and build a stronger structure into where we can actually do interventions with fidelity. Because kids don't just leave 8th grade with lagging skills and all of a sudden they're in high school and they don't have lagging skills, right? We know that doesn't happen, but schedules change. Lots of things change. We have no interventionists. So that has been a huge piece. We had a team that went to CISA in August to start this planning, and now we do monthly coaching with them to try and build piece by piece structures that will ensure that this gets better. Horizons assessment platform. So this was something that I had heard about last year at a DAC meeting. A couple of neighboring districts were using it, and I was like, what is this thing you keep talking about? I never heard of it. Twofold in how we hope that it improves high school scores and, more importantly, student success. One, it's ACT prep, pre-ACT prep. So students are able to see what the ACT or pre-ACT is going to look like, the types of questions that they're going to get, because that's not how we assess kids at the high school, because we do genuine, authentic assessments. We want students to show us what they know, not guess on a multiple choice question. Okay? So now they're still able to do those assessments in their classrooms, but they're getting practice on what an ACT looks like. The really cool piece is that students and teachers have access to the entire assessments. They have access to the percentage of students that picked A, B, C, and D. They have every student's answers to what they selected. So think about how those can be used in the classroom. Every day you walk in and there's a question on the board. The teacher knows the misconception because she knows how all her students answered it. Now they can walk through the question together. They can do it in small groups. So this morning with science, I was talking about how are you guys using this? Because we looked into the data on November 1st with the Horizon folks. We went through this the first time, the 3rd week of October. We'll do it again in end of January and then again in February or March before the ACT pre-ACT. So kids will get 3 attempts at this now. We're tracking the growth. Who's at benchmark? Horizons is a very good predictor of what students will actually get on pre-ACT and ACT. Okay, so we're using that. We've also started trimester scheduling. So now students, instead of concentrating on 9 different classes, they have 5 courses a trimester. Students are loving it. Teachers are loving it because they have 70 minutes now with their students. Now that doesn't come without challenges. You now have students for 70 minutes. And at high school even, that's a long time if you're doing what you're all doing right now and listening to me, right? This is never how I would run a classroom. So they have to change some of their instructions to make sure kids are moving and doing lots of different activities throughout that period. So lots of things going on. Comparison is the thief of joy, but we're gonna look at them anyways. We're gonna know that they're not apples to apples, but we're gonna use it as a growth. So we actually already have emails into a couple of the elementary schools that are ranked 1 and 2 in our district, so we can say, hey, what are you using? What's your schedule look like? What's your intervention look like? Science teacher this morning, when we talked about ACT scores, emailed 2 of the science teachers in our middle board conference. What do you require for juniors to take? I didn't ask him to do that. He just did it, and then he sent me his data. I'm like, thank you. Attached it to our PLC doc. Like, they're wanting this, so. All right, regional comparisons. I can't see that one. So like I said, we are 5th out of 39 CISA 11 districts, and at the end it tells you where we were last year in comparison. So we're at the same. We are 2nd out of the 8 middle border conference school districts. Again, these are our all district score. That's an increase. Last year we were 3rd. 3rd out of the 13 benchmarked CISA 11 school districts. These are those that most closely relate to our size demographics. That was an increase. I think we were 5th last year. We are 68 out of 377 in Wisconsin 4K-12 school districts. That is an increase slightly. We're roughly 19% last year. We are 8 out of 44 for school districts with similar size and demographics. This is throughout the state. So Winneconne, Maple, Northwestern, they're all over the state. Roughly 1,500, 1,600 to 1,900 students. With economically disadvantaged, the same. Students with disabilities, the same. I don't think I put the last one on there, but for our elementary school, I think I said that we were 14th. Yeah, 14th out of 53. So that's what I got. Any questions?
A lot of good information. Put a lot of time into that.
Yeah, it's work. Sounds like you already got the ball rolling to figure out why the high schools got a little lower scores.
Well, I just, none of this is me. This is a very solid team effort. You know, it's hard because the first thing that comes out is ACT. That
Sounds
comes
like
out
you're
in
leading
May.
the way well.
I will tell you too, Brian will tell you, he doesn't like being last. He said that many times, and neither do I. I come off very shy, but no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, me too.
I know, no, but he, with the ACT scores, you know, they're not where we want them to be. The hard part that we keep talking about is the high school is the hardest school in building to get kids excited about taking a test. Do your best, right? Elementary school kids, they're gonna do anything for their teachers. If you give them a piece of gum, they're gonna absolutely put in 100%. High school kids, it's a little harder sell, right? And if you're not going to a four-year school and you have a parent at home that says, oh, that doesn't matter, you're not going to a four-year school. It's hard to get your kid to then believe that. My oldest went to Chippewa Valley Tech School as a gas utility worker. He took this, I'm like, try your best. He didn't do great, right? But I said, do your best, this counts, your teachers care about how you did. It's all about how we talk about it. And that goes for parents, that goes for staff, goes for us as administrators. Are we getting kids excited about doing it? So.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm gonna get out of here. Have a good night.
Drive safe.
Thank you.
So we're out here to go pick up my daughter.
You have to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's free to drive right now. Hudson to pick up my daughter.
Hi, Lance. Vice President Lance.
Yeah, Vice President Lance.
I'm gonna leave, so then who's in charge?
Say family man and historian.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, we're good. Good. Drive safe. All right, so we are on to the financial reports.
Oh, exciting.
All right.
So as of 10/31/2024, balance of Citizen State Bank checking is $1,680,890.51. Money market is $12,285.70. Fund 46 is $58.74. Suicide prevention, $5,201. Debt service, $171,071.94. Referendum account, $2,655.23. Second referendum account, $1,088,551.38. Debt service account, $154,000, $849.57. A total of $3,115,564.07. Motion to approve.
Second.
Derek made the motion, Jeff second. Any discussion? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion carries. Next is consideration of the consent agenda. And we have 23 part-time and 8 full-time modification requests for students to enroll in virtual courses. So I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Derek, motion, and Dave second. Any discussion? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion carries. Next is administrative reports, which Tim typically goes through and kind of tells where we were, where we're at. And so that is the exhibit 12A if you wanted to look at that. Otherwise, we can just skip over that for this evening. Moving on to key work of our school board.
Of course he skipped out.
Yeah, that's why he left.
Greg's got it.
Your eyes can see that.
Oh, yeah, I can read it.
That's a little.
So we just,
Oh, yeah, you just read the names and
Yeah.
then.
recipient, CT staff, Garrett Wenzel, Brooke Reiser, Tice Todd, Courtney Hawkins, Tracy Crawley, Sammy Gibson, Gretchen Rosenboom, Amy Stevens. What an amazing job you did to host our CT open house. Your dedication to our students and community was on full display as you worked to welcome over 160 people to tour our new spaces. Thank you for your extra effort and time in hosting this event, as well as the creation and production of door prizes and snacks for our guests. That night, you put out our district vision on full display as you were all models of excellence in what we do.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the core agenda item, we've got a consideration of the second reading of board policy 133, filling board vacancies. And I think we just created that in something.
Last month.
Yeah.
The only change was that the notice supposed to go to me instead of
That's
you.
right. Yeah. All right,
By law.
so we need a motion.
I move, I second.
Dave made the motion. Jeff, second. Or any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Future agenda items. None? All right. Upcoming dates, December 9th, which is a Monday and a change from the original schedule, is the next school board meeting here at 7:00. And then we've got January 15th, the school board meeting at 7 here, and then the WASB State Convention, January 22nd through the 24th. We will skip the closed session as that was Tim's quarterly review of goals. And so now we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Derek and Jeff. All right, and it is 8:35.